We'll open the meeting. We do have a quorum. All 5 members are present. Item 2 on our agenda is the opening prayer by Reverend John Hart of Lake Kiowa Chapel, followed by our pledges, led by Commissioner Art.
Let us pray. Almighty God, as we gather here this morning, we're thankful for your many blessings. We thank you for the country in which we live and for the freedoms that we enjoy. We thank you for the communities that we live here and for all the people who give of their time and energy in service to others here. We lift up our prayers this morning, O God, for our first responders and all those people who place themselves in harm's way. And especially this morning, we pray for the commissioners. We ask you, O God, that their decisions this morning will reflect your justice and your mercy and your grace. And we offer this prayer in the name of Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Thank you, Reverend. Item 5 on our agenda is public comments on agenda items. We have 5 citizens signed up this morning. Each one will have 6 minutes. Lauren McLean. Is Lauren?
Have a handout? Should I?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Lauren McLean, and I live in Gainesville, Texas, just south of Lindsay. I'm in Precinct 3. And 2 weeks ago, at the September 26th meeting, it was stated by Judge Starnes that the Cooke County Commissioners want to reduce the footprint of the library significantly. It was also stated that the intent has always been to scale it down and make it mainly electronic. As this information reached the public, the outrage was unanimous. Don't reduce our library. In less than a week, over 500 people joined a Facebook page supporting the cause. Judge Starnes, Mr. Clement, Mr. Snuggs, I thank you for hearing the public in this matter and for publicly declaring that you do not support moving or downsizing the library. But this is not the first time that the court has tried to put off responsibility of the library or reduce the size. There was an attempt in recent years to have NCTC take over the library, move it onto their campus. For years, there's been discussions and proposals to move the library to the Crest building. And a few years ago, former Judge Brinkley also proposed moving the library to the Prosperity building. So we can see that there's an ongoing trend that shows a lack of appreciation for our library. This has to change. We want you, our commissioners of Cooke County, to understand our vast need for and love for our library. One concern about reducing the library is that any cut in operational expenses would put our library in danger of losing accreditation. Without accreditation, library patrons lose access to interlibrary loans and the Tech Share program. In addition, the library would not qualify to receive grants. Our library routinely applies for and receives grants to increase its services to our county. I was surprised to learn that our county does not even fully fund the minimal amount necessary to keep our library accredited. So I went on to the Texas State Library and Archives Commissions to find out about other libraries that serve populations similar in size to our own. If you look at the handout, it shows libraries The 50 libraries that serve populations smaller than ours, that are just under ours, and the 50 libraries that serve populations just larger than ours. Our library is highlighted on page 2. If you look at the 50 libraries, out of the 50 libraries that serve populations smaller than ours, 96% of them have larger libraries. Smaller population, larger library. Only 2 have libraries that are smaller than ours. In fact, our library is already one of the smallest in the state of Texas. So the talk of reducing the library is absurd. It's unfair. I've highlighted in red all the libraries that are smaller than ours. Also highlighted in red, in the third column there, 3.11, the next one, total operating expenses per capita. 76 of the same libraries spend more per capita than Cooke County does, and the vast majority were fully funded by their county or their city. Why is Cooke County not fully funding our library? We are a community of fiscal conservatives. We know the value of a dollar, and we appreciate cutting costs where we can. We don't need a fancy building. We don't need bells and whistles, but we do want our library properly maintained and repairs made appropriately. But if you go and walk in our library today, you will see a number of visible problems. The far south wall has so much mold on it that they can't even use it for shelving books. The roof leaks in the meeting room, so every time it rains, when there's story time, we have to move to a different location. The plaster in the bathroom is falling down, and the HVAC is the original from 1963. These repairs are necessary, they're obvious, and yet the cost to do these repairs would be significantly less than getting an entirely new building for $1.25 million and then making it fit ADA needs for another probably $1 million. Prosperity Bank also needs a new HVAC. So when we look at the history of the court proposals, the lack of fully funding the library, and the repairs that are just waiting to be done, we can conclude that the Commissioners Court does not value or prioritize our library as the public does. We love our library. We need our library. We are going to fight for our library, and we are asking you to save our library. Thank you.
Thank you. And the buyers?
My name is Anna Byer. We are a homeschooling family with 5 children. I am currently teaching my second child how to read. The most important tools when teaching a child how to read is the book. The child has to be able to hold the book in their hand, feel the pages, and they have to put their finger along the sentence when they're reading. If you do that with a screen, it moves, and the child can't do that. There have been countless studies showing that children need less screen time, not more. Last summer, my 6-year-old daughter received her library card, and I wish you could have seen the proud look on her face when the librarian gave it to her. She can spend all day reading. If the library is going to look into more digitalized options, please guarantee us that nothing will happen to our precious books. The library is a safe haven for my children, as well as the rest of the children in Cooke County. I don't feel like I need to look over my shoulder every time we're there to see if someone's going to snatch my child. If the library shares a building with the DMV, as well as other county offices, can you guarantee that the library will still be that safe haven for our children. Lastly, when was the last time any of you were at the library? Do you realize what a part of the community this library is? They have story time. They have the summer reading program. Our library is very important to us and our children. Please save our library.
Thank you. Cecilia Thompson?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Cecilia Thompson. I live on Everglade Drive, which is about 4 minutes from here. And I have some thoughts on this. So, the library has always been magical to me. You step in between the quiet rows. They're shelved with books rife with stories about epic quests and hard-won battles, heroes and tragedies, ordinary and extraordinary events, both factual and fictional. All of them are there for you to choose from, waiting for you to pick one up and discover a whole new world between their pages. That still holds true for me today, as it was when I was a child. But now, however, I see how truly invaluable the library is for me and for many others, and I see how it enriches our lives and our communities beyond the joy just found in reading books. The library provides access to many services: printing, information, computers, and internet, to name but a few. These are invaluable resources to members of the community. The library is a place for people to come together socially through story time and other events, providing the opportunity to grow in friendships and camaraderie as a community in Gainesville. The library is a treasure trove of history and science. It's a window to experience other cultures and other places throughout the world we live in. The library is a means for families to foster and encourage reading to their children at no cost to themselves. Reading books is entertainment that studies have shown improves and supports language skills, cognitive development, and it's a means of sparking children's imagination and creativity without the need for batteries, screens, or chargers. We mothers are doing our best in our roles to nurture and guide our children, your future constituents, to becoming the best versions of themselves. In order for our library to support the needs of Cooke County, it has to be properly funded, not reduced and marginalized. They say that it takes a village to grow a child. As elected officials, your offices bear the responsibility of serving the best interests of our village, of our community. A community that is asking you today to please save our library. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Daughtry?
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Doherty. I am originally from Lindsay. I live in the Gainesville area out in the country, north of Lindsay currently. I'm speaking to address the issue of the library as well. I could not find one single study showing evidence that reading from a screen helps with reading fluency or adds to a society in knowledge, productivity, or health, or any of those things which we value in our society and makes our society better as a whole. Specifically, I'd like to address the idea of high-density shelving. At the surface level, I believe that this can seem to be a way to help with cost-effectiveness of the library using less floor space. However, if this high-density shelving hides shelves of books behind others which must be moved to be accessed, which I don't know the designs you've looked at, but I can imagine that's one possibility, it will reduce accessibility to those books. One person or two could stand in front of the shelves looking at books and browsing. None of the books in the back can be looked at by other people. One person moves the shelves to see what's in the back, and it eliminates other patrons' opportunities to see the shelves that were in the front. Have you ever been to a store, a retail store, where someone rotated the rack you're trying to look at so they can see on the backside? It reduces accessibility and ease of use. If the shelves must be moved electronically, it will reduce accessibility also because most people aren't going to go ask a librarian how to help them move the shelf so they can see what's in the back. Most people who are quickly searching aren't going to go over to a computer just so they can move some shelves and browse a bit in the back. People are going to walk away without seeing what was hidden behind. Haven't you ever been to a store, honorable commissioners, in a store that was laid out in a confusing manner or where items were difficult to reach or access? If you're in a hurry, or if you're just browsing and not looking for a particular item, you're not going to work that hard to find what is not easily accessible. High-density shelving quite possibly could reduce our access to materials. CBS Sunday Morning recently aired an episode on how libraries are experiencing a resurgence. Modernizing, yes, but not downsizing, not reducing physical books. They're adding services, adding additional services like loaning out hardware tools, loaning out musical instruments, things we all desire to borrow when we need it or for a time to try it out before we decide to make that purchase. Those are just to name a few. Basically, they're helping the public with items they need, and they're not putting things on screens. The famous Andrew Carnegie said, "A library outranks any other one thing a community can do to benefit its people. It is a never-failing spring in the desert." Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa Vestal.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Vestal. I'm a stay-at-home mom in Cooke County, which is where my husband and I are originally from. However, I worked as an engineer in Fort Worth for 15 years where I enjoyed a wonderful library system. And let me tell you, it was such a relief when I moved back to this area a few years ago, knowing that we would also be able to utilize a great local library in the Cooke County Library. It was really a concern of mine because we use the library a lot. I'll try to keep it short. I share the same views as these other folks have said, better than I could anyway. I try not to jump to conclusions. I'm a big fan of brainstorming creative ideas, and thinking outside the box in order to solve problems. I wouldn't want someone to pick apart the exact words of something I said off the top of my head. I appreciate everything y'all do. In this case, I don't think anything was taken out of context because there have been talks about the potential to move the library, and if something even close to those words were being spoken or thought, then we did want to come and speak up before it went any further. So I'm just here today to reframe the importance of the library for you and remind you that the county, remind the elected officials of the county that it deserves more consideration than just kind of cramming it into a location that's more convenient, possibly for other logistical reasons versus the usage reasons of the library. We can't value logistical considerations over user considerations when it comes to a library. If the idea came about because of cost savings, then I just respectfully ask you to look elsewhere in the budget for other line items. I guess I just see this library as kind of sacred. It just really trumps other issues. Two main points that alarmed my husband and I the most were reducing the library size, which to me translates to reducing the number of books available, reducing the amount of programs offered, reducing the amount of space for meetings and small groups to use, which basically just means reducing the importance of the library itself. I was raised right around the corner on Denton Street. I grew up going to the same exact library back when I was learning to read in the 80s. Everyone remembers the little blue library card with the metal raised numbers on it that they stamped. There was always plenty of availability and variety for me as a kid, and there still is today as an adult, and therefore I could never read all the books in the library, meaning I never ran out of options. And the same still holds true for my kids today. We come in probably once a month or so with my bright orange giant library bag and literally walk out of there with about 30 books or so. This allowed, from the day my kids were born, this allowed us to read probably 5 picture books to them as a newborn to age 5 every night. Imagine reading the same books over and over every night. Like, it was such a blessing to be able to have that variety for them, and it really, what a great way to cultivate a love of reading in my kids, and trust me, it has paid off and served them well in school and in life so far. I mean, they're still young, but, and they do the chapter books now, and it's great. There's no way we could have afforded to buy that many used or new or even used books, you know, to get that variety and that love of reading for them. This access to books allows a child or adult who has an interest in something to most likely find a book about it in the Cooke County Library. You could find that book today in this current library. This is what we want as a community. If you reduce the books, you reduce the chances of finding that book. For a community to have the best possible future, it just needs a never-ending supply of interesting and informative books in order to educate and grow the minds of its people. I do believe libraries change people's lives. Just a quick note about converting to mainly electronic with a quote, some hard copies available. All I can say is I think the digital revolution has failed. You should see my husband's office, this paperless office. I don't know. I read a few articles to make sure that's not just my experience. The Pew Research Center recently reported print books still outsell ebooks 4-to-1. Over 30% of the population say they only read print books. We don't really want to rule out that entire segment of the population from using the library as much. All our kids read books at bedtime. There's no way I'm going to let them take a tablet or a smartphone to bed with them at night to read, because they'll find other things to do on it. So at this point, since we reacted so greatly to what was said in the meeting, I think that you now agree with us that any thoughts to move or change the library in a negative way demand a much deeper and longer conversation. That's the main reason we're here. I never would have guessed in a million years that the next plans for the library might include shrinking it. Instead, I would have thought doubling or tripling it in size. So I hope that could actually be a real agenda for this court in the coming future. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 6 on the agenda. The consent agenda includes non-controversial and routine items that the court may act on with one single vote. The judge or commissioner may pull any item from the consent agenda in order that the court discuss and act upon it individually as a regular part of the agenda. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss?
The bills. I don't know what the best way to do that. I think I'll just refrain from voting on the paying of the bills. My daughter, who's an attorney, who's been a court-appointed attorney on several cases, has several checks in there, so I need to refrain from voting on those. So if I abstain from paying the bills, that's why. It's not that I don't want to pay them or think they're viable.
Okay.
Anybody have anything else? What?
We should pull it then, right, to
Well,
vote separate?
I guess we can, if that's, okay.
That's normally-
Let's pull those off.
In that circumstance, with her providing that service, is it a conflict? I mean, do you have to abstain from it?
It's just best, because I know how the political world is. If you remember correctly, you all buy oil from Mr. Brinkley and Lindsay, and when Jason was the judge, you all refrained from voting on that portion of the bill, so I don't want someone saying conflict of interest, which I think is a stretch, but I'm not gonna.
Well, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda minus letter E.
We'll have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Snuggs minus item E.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arndt. Any further discussions? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Item E, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding payment of monthly bills.
I make a motion, we approve letter E.
Have a motion to approve item E of the consent agenda to pay monthly bills.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Arndt.
Can
All in favor?
we take some discussion there?
Sure.
Leon, would it be better if excluded just what affects,
Is what affects that, that's fine.
and then that way you can participate with approval of the remaining bills?
That's
You'd like
fine.
to?
That's fine with me.
Can we amend that motion?
You want to
That's fine.
restate it?
I mean, I can restate, I make a motion, we approve letter E less the items paying
The Townsend firm.
the Townsend firm for court-appointed attorneys.
Have a motion by Commissioner Snuggs to approve paying the bills, item E under consent agenda, less the Townsend firm.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arndt. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. Go back to E now and pay the Townsend firm.
Oh, I'll do that too. I make a motion, we approve the payment of the Townsend firm for services rendered.
Have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to pay the Townsend firm for services rendered.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Arndt. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries 4-0.
I abstain.
One abstention.
Yeah.
All right, it is 10:26. We'll open public hearing, request for replat of Lot 15R and 30R of Eagle Cove in Precinct 2 by Karen Luce. Is anyone here to speak to this replat?
Good morning. My name's Chris Custer. This is my wife Karen. This is a replat. We just built a house. We had 4 lots that we had purchased, and 1 for an ag exemption and 2 for the mortgage of the house, and not the other land in the shop. We're replatting it to 1.9 acres, I believe, and the other 11 separate. We'd already replatted it once, but when we readjusted the house and set the house on it, we were touching the existing property line, so in order to satisfy the mortgage and the title company, we have to move the southern line 15 feet. And that's basically, we're just readjusting the southern line 15 feet. They wouldn't allow an amendment, so we had to go through the full replat process.
Okay. Any other questions for the Luces?
I didn't realize those lots were that big in Eagles Cove to get ag exemption.
Sir?
I didn't realize those lots were that big.
Well, we bought 4.
Yeah.
So it combined 13 acres between the 4 of them.
Okay, thank you, sir. It is 10:28. We'll close public hearing. Item 9, deliberate and consider possible approval of request for replat of Lot 15R and 30R of Eagle Cove.
Everything good with the P and Z?
I'm sorry?
Nothing needed with the P and Z?
No.
Okay, I make a motion, we approve this replat.
Have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to approve the request for replat of Lot 15R and 30R at Eagle Cove.
I'll second that.
A second by Commissioner Clement. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, 5-0. It is still 10:28. We'll open public hearing on the request for replat of Lot 2 of Linky Hills Precinct 1 by Rhett Schellenberger. Rhett, does anybody want to talk to this issue?
I can explain if you want.
Say again?
I can explain if you want. He's got 1 lot. He
Okay.
just wants to split it up. That's basically it.
Okay, there's no comments, it's 10:29, we'll close public hearing. Deliberate and consider possible approval of request for replat of Lot 2 of Link Hills by Rhett Schellenberger.
Does the subdivision have any deed restrictions or anything?
No, this is out of the river.
Oh.
Way out of the
County Road
river.
127, near the Dripping Springs.
Oh.
Yeah,
There are
there's
no
rules
rules
for
out
that
there.
one.
There's,
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve the replat for Lot 2 at Linky Hills by by Commissioner Hollowell, a second by Commissioner Snuggs. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Ayes have it, 5-0. Item 13, deliberate and consider the future of the Cooke County Library.
That's mine. In light of all the discussion that happened in the last couple of weeks, I thought it might be good to have a public discussion on all of this in front of everybody, because that is one of my concerns. We get involved in so much business around here, things get said. Things get said in meetings, comments get made, and it seems like every once in a while something will just show up, and it'll be, well, y'all talked about this, we talked about it. The problem that I have is it doesn't show up as an agenda item. And you set a precedence when it gets mentioned, and then it's, don't you remember we talked about it? And no, I don't remember everything we talked about. I remember a lot, but I don't remember all of it. And I'm afraid that was the road we were going to go down on this one. Yeah, there has been a lot of discussion over the years about the library. Some of them just keep popping back up. For the 14 years I've been here, I believe 12 out of the 14, there's some comment been made about the library, whether it could be moved, downsized in the digital age. Now, can you believe that 14 years ago there was no digital? Not like it is now. That discussion wasn't so much. Then and now, still this year, it's the college would like to have it. Well, the college has never come here and asked us to have the library. I think would be a disservice to the library, and besides, that wasn't a very good monetary move either. They want lots of money to move the library. And I just thought, before I go, in 2.5 months, since all of that happened, we ought to have a public discussion.
I agree with everything.
And so here we are.
I agree with everything Commissioner Clement says. We need to air this out. And what I said in the meeting previously was that there had been discussions about moving it, downsizing it in electronic. Not that I supported it or that there was any plan, simply discussions. And Commissioner Clement confirmed that in the discussions that we had, that it was simply discussions. But I do not support moving the library. I have said that numerous times. I do believe we have, as Ms. McLean mentioned, we have some serious problems with the library that need to be fixed. There's an issue with the roof that needs to be fixed. I think that there is a size problem. We need more room than we have today. And I believe we need to put together a committee to start reviewing what are the best options for our library and how can it best serve our community. I think that needs to be a mix of people on the court, patrons of the library, and start that discussion. I mean, we're still 18 months away from having the Prosperity Building if everything goes correctly. But that is not a good place for a library. I agree with everything that was said today. I have great concerns about it sharing space with other offices and the access, the lack of parking. It's just not a good fit. But I think that in order to get where we all want to be, we need to put together a group and start brainstorming it. There's plenty of time. There's 18 months away before anything could be done. And I won't be here. I've only got about 60 days left on the court, but I certainly would not support moving it into the Prosperity Building.
And as I've stated publicly over the last week when I've been trying to stay ahead of everything and keep everybody calmed down, you know, there's a huge chess game and puzzle pieces that we're going to be working on in the next 18 months, and I'll be here for it. And I welcome the outside opinion of everybody for any decision we make. Nobody ever comes to court. Nobody ever even comes when we approve the $40 million budget every year. We've got more people here now combined than we've had here in the last year. there's been a little bit of fire on why are you buying these buildings? What about the Crest building? If you go back and watch the court videos, I haven't been thrilled about any of it, but we do have an immediate need to get rid of some aging buildings. And the library was never on my radar, but it's been on the radar of the court, like Leon said, for 14 years. The Crest building, to me, is better suited to be owned by a private entity for whatever's going on in the downtown area, where the Prosperity building makes more sense as a government building. And I would like to occupy that one day with as little to no modifications as we can. That being in a short-term plan, which helps meet our long-term plan, where we're going to have to get together and figure out what the direction of the county is and how much extra space we're going to need off-site. But the $1.25 million Prosperity Bank is a drop in the bucket on what I can estimate would be $20 million range of building cost, accelerating every year. Could be more than that down the road. So I think that it's a good short-term move while we work on a long-term plan. And I encourage everybody to keep an eye on the agendas when we do talk about things. When we talk about these buildings, they'll be in boring workshops that can take all day. But I assure you, we all work very hard on trying to make the best decisions that we can. And there's nothing that goes on behind closed doors, nothing that goes on sneaky. Everybody's welcome to have my cell phone number, even if I'm not your commissioner. I want everybody to know I pride myself and ran my campaign 4 years ago, can't believe it's already been 4 years ago, on transparency. But I promise we're working hard to move these chess pieces. But one last thing, and then I'll shut up. There's 3 buildings off the top of my head that can go with some simple puzzle pieces moving into the Prosperity Bank building, and it's 2 probation offices and then the DMV and driver's license office. I mean, these 3 buildings can be sold off and we can concentrate on one, which would free up a lot of maintenance that can be used towards even the library or other maintenance issues that we have. But I agree with Judge Starnes, we definitely need to figure out the water issue over at the library. We haven't talked about that in a while. I thought it was solved. So I didn't know we still had leaky walls or ceilings or wet carpet. That's unacceptable. That's all I've got to say.
So, I'm not near finished. Transparency is a fun word, isn't it? You would have never known this happened if it wouldn't have been on YouTube. That is my fear. And it has happened in other things. It just happens. The library wasn't part of the discussion. It wasn't on the agenda. That's how you're supposed to know this has happened, and that's what I'm afraid of. We talked about this once, and it's part of a building move, it's part of this and that, and all of a sudden, it's done. And don't tell me that it can't happen. The reason for that is so you all know, if you care about something, the reason for the agenda items is so if you all know about it, you can be part of the discussion. And if it would happen like what scenario I'm painting, you would say, wait a minute, how did this happen? And it would be said, it was discussed once. It was part of another project. And since you brought up the Crest building, I'll lay out this scenario. The Crest building is an office building. The Smiths were in it. They left it. Most of the furniture's in it. It needs some work done to it. They want it in private hands. Okay, we've had this battle, we've had this debate, but think about this. You're going to get to renovate a bank and make it into an office building. There is an office building. And one of the arguments against the Crest building, understand some of these discussions that we have, is you'd have to cross California Street. But now we want to put a library, possibly. Now everybody says they don't want to. No one said a word the other day. And this is all business. This is not personal. If I've heard that one, there you go getting personal. No. This is business. So we're going to put the library on California Street with a tiny parking lot. That all has to be part of the discussion. But the important part is for all of you to be part of the discussion. Not just on this, on everything. On everything. As far as the Citizens Committee is concerned, you've got a good librarian. Everybody seems to be happy with the programs. Do we want to bog down everything with bringing in? I value everyone's opinion. Please, take this the right way. we're going to have committee meetings. We're going to talk this thing to death. We have a good library. The building's not the best. I've never advocated for building a new building either. But if we're going to grow like everybody says we're going to grow, the library is part of the integral pieces of the county. You can't get past that. There's a lot of other things. We could go on for hours about what you all know that we do here and how things get decided here. But you have your due diligence to watch too. We can't spoon feed everything to you. That's true. Very few people come to meetings. Very few people come to tax hearings. Next to no one. But that is my concern. It'll happen. I know it was said not too long ago that we don't need all this fussing and discussing in these meetings. We're going to make good decisions and go on. Well, folks, that's fine if that's what you all want. That's what you're going to get. But I encourage you to be very vigilant, not just on this, on everything. Transparency it's a nice word, I like it, but you gotta make us be transparent. I'm sorry, Judge, but it was in the Gainesville paper. Library didn't look like a good move. Been discussing things with commissioners, nobody's discussed a thing with me. Hashing this out on Facebook for 2 weeks, that's why this is on the agenda. That's ridiculous. We do our business here, is where it's supposed to be, or your business. That's another thing. We call it ours. If you're a commissioner for a while, you tend to call everything yours because you're doing it every day. But don't forget it's yours. Anybody have any questions? Can they ask us a question?
Sure. I would like to comment on one thing. Just because we sit here and we discuss hundreds and hundreds of items, I'm just going to just speak for me. I don't speak to a lot of things until it's time to take a vote. So sitting here and being quiet and making notes and researching my decision doesn't mean I'm for or against the topic.
I never said you
we
were.
talk every single little thing out, we'd be here for hours and hours and hours every Monday when we don't need to do that. Until there's time to make a vote. You know, being silent doesn't show whether you're for or against the topic. And you don't have to force us to be transparent, as he just said. We're transparent. That's the rules.
Let's talk about that a little bit. ARPA funds, so if you want to get in the weeds, let's get in the weeds. You talk about transparency.
That's not on the agenda.
Oh, it's part of the transparency. No. We've opened the door to transparency. So we never discussed anything about how, I'm giving them an example of how things happen sometimes, and I never said you were supposed to talk incessantly. But no, ARPA funds, government money we got, what we could use it for. We never discussed what really we're going to use it for. In a budget meeting last year, motion was made, boom, we're going to spend this much doing this. A, B, or C.
And then there was discussion.
And then there was the discussion, but the public didn't know what was going to happen. See, that's the whole key to this. And somewhere along the line, we're losing our communications, folks.
And you've been here for 14 years.
That's right. And it's getting worse, much worse. That's how we got $3,400 of lights up in the bell tower that don't work. Someone came to court and said, hey, I got this idea, let's do it. Bam. The public didn't know we were going to discuss it. If you all think, if this community and this county thinks this is minutia, you're supposed to know what we're doing. KGAF and the paper can put in the day before the meeting, this is what the Commissioners Court will discuss. Sure, we range far afield in discussion, but not in particular items. Not on, what are we going to move? Which building? Yeah, we've talked about moving these buildings around, adult probation, juvenile probation. We've talked about that for years, but we never had a place to go. We've been, people think we don't plan. We plan about these things all the time. But you have to have the money and the wherewithal to get there. We're getting there.
Leon, would it have been beneficial to the public to have them all show up whenever, the implication is we've done this without anybody knowing it, and it wasn't on the agenda. Well, it wasn't on the agenda because we didn't plan to take an action.
So it was portrayed that we were doing it. It was portrayed that we are going to. It was portrayed that that is what the Commissioners Court is talking about doing. And I didn't bring it up. I never said you brought it up either. I'm just pointing out an issue that I think is building. A lot of discussions, we have to have a lot of discussion. Between ourselves, we can't conduct business. They call that a walking quorum if we all start talking about things as we see each other, and then we take action. I'm worried. It's my worry. You all can, whatever you think about it.
But if we had people, every time we discussed the library over the last several years, we'd have a bunch of bored people, because we talk and we talk and we talk and we haven't really taken action, and we brainstorm these things quite often. I mean, when this topic came up, we wasn't talking about the library per se. We were talking about the Prosperity Bank, and it went into, hey, what we might do with it, I think is how we got there.
And it was said, I'm sorry, but I quoted, I can't remember it word for word, but we're going to downsize it to an e-book size library.
No, that's not correct.
I know the quote.
What was the quote?
Yeah, we have it.
What was the
The
quote?
plan has always, Judge Starnes said, the plan has always been to downsize the library to make it mostly electronic.
And it's been discussed with the
Yeah,
library.
there was a discussion of that nature. I looked at it this morning. I'll have to look at it again. But the bottom line is that there's been a lot of discussions, and that was the gist of the comment, was that there had been discussions. I'm glad the comment came out, and I think the Commissioner Clement's right. I don't know how we keep the general public abreast of all comments and discussions that are being made. I mean, we were having discussions that are 2 years in advance of any action. Yes, ma'am.
If there wasn't the intent to move the library to the Prosperity, then why was the PSI measure for the shelving?
No, there was.
That's what ICON came and.
Sure, no, that's a good question. That would just be, I mean, we would have been derelict in our duties if we didn't do the due diligence, knowing that that was one of the many possibilities for the library. Just as it was done in 2016, that exact same study was done in 2016 to determine what the load factors were to accommodate the library. So these are all things that we need to know to verify, because that has been a discussion. It's been a discussion with this court. It was a discussion with several courts back about moving that library to this building or to the Crest building. And so doing the engineering due diligence was just what we needed to do to verify if it could or couldn't be done. But no one was trying to keep anything from the public. I came right out and said, when the commissioner mentioned it, that, hey, this is a discussion. And I'm proud that I did come out and say, hey, this is a discussion we have been having. I didn't try to keep it quiet or not tell anybody.
Here's the problem. That all sounds great. It really is, sounds great, but you don't have an opportunity to voice your opinion. Judge Brinkley, yep, he got ICON out there, and they went through the building, and it turned into a discussion with him how we can move the library. I don't ever really, we don't have a video on that one, so I don't remember that we approved that one either. But that was a discussion. But remember this, the important part of the discussion thing is you have an opportunity to know that we're having the discussion. This, in my opinion, and that doesn't amount to, you had something you wanted to say.
So my ex-wife worked at the library.
I'm sorry,
My ex-wife worked at the library for 3 or 4 years. And the conditions that the lady talked about, the leaking of the carpets and all, that was going in. So is it an issue of not having enough money to take care of it? Or is that what the deal is?
my humble opinion is not everyone thinks in a library is as important as, some people don't look at as a library as important as they used to because we all have these and these iPads. And there are people that say libraries are going out of popularity. I don't know, my sarcastic remarks are, why don't we want people to get educated, especially if they want to educate themselves? I don't know. That's part of a whole different discussion. But the important, please, everybody remember this, the important part, a lot of things get said. But if you don't have any idea that we have said them, you don't know what's going on. And, no, I don't want to stay here for days on end and talk minutia, though I could, but I don't really want to. It's part of a bigger problem that I'm concerned about. And I just want to I've been trying to figure out how I was going to say this before I left here, because I've been worried about this for a while. And the library came up. So I guess the good Lord smiled on me. But anyway, seriously, to me, that's the biggest part of the problem. Whichever building we put it in, how important does Cooke County think a library is? I doubt if there's very many progressive is not a good word. I doubt if there's very modern, you got to be so careful with everything now. I doubt if there's very many modern businesses, companies that want to move to a county, and I doubt if the first thing they look at is to see if you destroyed your library or not, or have you downsized your library, or have you made your library better? Which one are they going to look more favorably on? Are you a community that's forward-thinking? Everyone wants to talk about downtown's too crowded and all this other stuff, but what about the core things that we do? And libraries to me are one of them. That's just my opinion.
Can we take an action to do anything with the library without it being posted and taking a vote in public?
No, but there's enough things that are said over a period of time. How many people use the library a month, do you? No, I mean, how many? I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that question.
We have those stats, they're pretty impressive.
I'm sorry.
7,000 plus in September.
How many?
7,000 plus.
7,000 different hits or people or
At least check out.
patrons?
Those stats are in our email every month, too.
Yeah, I know. But I've heard it said that not that many people use that library anymore. I've heard it said. And if those kind of comments, sure, there hadn't been a vote taken, but you say those things long enough, they become facts. Look at Washington, D.C. You got to pass the bill before you know what's in it.
7,118 visitors.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
In 1 month?
1
How many
month.
different, does it give you the statistics on how many different people that is, or is that one family going in with 5 kids 20 times that month?
No family with 5 kids goes into a library 20 times in 1 month. I say show them, we get our books for 6 weeks at a time.
You got 100 new library cards in July, 7,265 physical checkouts. Computers and Wi-Fi users, almost 5,000, only open 24 days. Kids programs, almost 200. And then kids' summer reading completions of the summer reading program, of reading a certain number of books for children in the time period. Kids, 67 completed, teens, 13, and adults, 30. Just in July.
Now, go ahead.
I want to mention one other thing too, is the parking access is safe and out of the way, easy for people to access the library there. I think that's one of the really big things.
That's the largest factor for me.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't heard
That
that.
parking's terrible over here.
I'd like to support what Mr. Clement is saying, because if he had not asked the questions about what the intentions of the library were, we would never have known. And I'd like to say that I am able to watch the agenda every week and see exactly what's on there. I have 4 kids and I homeschool and I'm busy. We all are. We can all say that, and it's hard. And so unless these things become public and make it in the paper, then it's just difficult. So I greatly appreciate Mr. Clement asking the question and bringing it to the public light so that we can hear that the intention has always been to reduce. So I thank you so much that you now are saying, no, we're not going to reduce. I appreciate the library and I don't, but the intention has always been to reduce it significantly. It's a very different outlook.
I think if we look at the building that we said that we're going to reduce it, if we were going to put it in, it's actually larger. It's about 2,000 foot. Is that correct?
I'm saying it's 3,000.
About 3,000 foot, more square footage, but the parking problem, I understand.
That's big.
But the
it won't-
surface is going to be shared.
No,
Just the footprint of the library where I was thinking we were going to put it, if we did.
You can't load it. That's what the whole point of what Icon was saying. The building is not structurally sound enough to load all the books in there. You would have to downsize it. That was the problem when Brinkley was looking at it.
The library right now is 7,400 square feet, so 3,000 square feet is.
Well, that's the overhang, the actually usable is 6,150.
It's still double what you just said.
Double
You said
what?
3,000, prosperity was 3,000?
No, it's 13,000 on the bottom floor.
13,000 on the bottom
And
floor.
the section that was being thought about possibly for the library or many other offices is 9,000.
Was 3,000 more.
Yeah.
3,000 more.
Yeah.
The problem
And whenever
is-
we've had these, whenever we've had these conversations, it's not just the library, it's all the options, and they've been brief. There's been so much talk of it just since I've been here and no action that I'm frustrated with all of it too. But when we talk about it, it's other options too. It's not just the library. And the library's been the smallest focus, and I've actually, because I've never liked the idea, I just ignore it and slough it off and concentrate on other things.
And here's the danger. Now, it gets talked about, it gets said, and no one says a word, and we walk out of the room. I know, I'm being told, you'll sit here and hash everything over. When something like that's said, no one says a word, and you walk out of the room, what does that mean? Silence speaks more than anything. You can paint this however you want to. Paint away, that's fine.
You can paint it however you want to paint it.
I am too.
But whenever I discuss them, I'm going to talk about it when we've got action happening.
I'll tell you what, there's all kinds of issues that you bring up when you start discussing the county business on Facebook and on emails.
Yes,
And we-
ma'am.
Well, I would like to ask, why do we even consider housing the library with another office? For example, if you house it with a motor vehicle office, okay, you've got a building with library facilities with little kids and their mothers, et cetera.
There would
And then your motor vehicle office has everybody that needs an ID of any kind, whether they're criminals, whether they're pedophiles, whether they're regular, everyday, upstanding individuals. You have no control over that. And you want to have those people coming in and out of the library?
There'd be a wall between there. I mean, it wouldn't be,
Two different entrances.
yeah, it'd be totally.
All the same. You
The-
could have people waiting in the parking lot because they're already there.
You could over there. I'm not for moving it over there, but you could there too. I come in the mornings early, there's people that are laying on the benches. I don't know where they come from.
Well, yeah, I understand
But
that.
I'm
That's
not, safety is number one, period.
exactly.
So, I mean, that people come from off the highway or 35 that we don't know where they come from.
True,
I mean,
but do you want to house them with probation officers, or offices, or other government offices that increase the chances of interactions between?
The sheriff's department
do
used to
not.
be right across there forever.
Sidewalk.
And it's great to get this input, but so much of it right now, we're dealing with speculation because we don't even own the building, much less do we know what we're going to put on there. It might very well be that you house it with 4-H. And if you can put the two in the building together, then you're sharing in the utility cost. It's not a standalone building. I mean, this is all so premature.
Oh, no, don't you all fall for this premature stuff. No. The conversations I hear, I mean, please. Do you think it'd be wise to put juvenile probation next to 4-H? Anybody know that was ever talked about? It's been talked about off and on for a couple of years.
Did it ever happen?
No, it grows legs.
Well, they go to school together, they go to church together, they meet at Walmart, so, but let's separate them everywhere else.
We're getting off
We're not
subject
trying to
here.
do that, folks. We're not trying to do that at all.
we're not getting off subject. The subject is this. Y'all have to be watchful about everything, not just the library.
Because we're all a bunch of crooks up here.
Nobody called anybody a crook. Now, please, no one called anybody a crook. Kept this all above board. I do know we spent $3 million one day, and it was not on the agenda. I know a motion was made and it happened. And it was said, well, it's part of the broader range of the budget discussion. And that happened. And we ratified it, and we had our vote, and it went through. No one knew we really did it until it was done, or knew we did it until it was done. Was it illegal? No, I'm not saying anybody's crooked. I'm just saying.
Did you participate in it?
Yeah, and I voted no.
Okay.
And the argument, yeah, but the public, did the public know that was going to happen before you did it?
I guess I shouldn't say anything. I don't know. I'd hate to indict myself on something.
No, they watched video.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
you know.
now,
Back to the library, if we could, real quickly here. This is the commitment I make to everyone here. Number one, it's been an eye-opener discussing the library with everyone over the last week. It's amazing how much intangibles are associated with that, where grandmothers who went to that library, as someone talked about earlier when they were a kid, are now taking their grandkids. There's a lot of intangibles associated with stuff too, guys, not just books and screens. There's a aura, and yes, I have been to that library recently, and there is an aura about a library that has a mystique to it that we need to take under consideration too, guys. I'll give you my commitment that I will work to fix the problems in between now and the next 60 days while I'm here of the issues with the building. I do know that there's something extraordinary with the roof design. I think it's tried to be fixed. I don't know if Rick's here, but I'll make the commitment to try to get that fixed. I would also like to make the commitment to you as well, is that I would like to start the discussions of what do we need in the Whale Library? How much space do we need? What facilities do we need to add? What kind of electronics, what kind of books? We need to start putting together a future state for our library. What do we want our library to be in a year? What do we want our library to be in 5 years? What do we want our library to be in 10 years? And I think that's going to take some input from the citizens. I think it's going to take people like the city, the Economic Development Corporation that knows what the growth's going to be. But I am very proud that that the citizens have come together and rallied to this, and we can work now together to figure out what the plan should be. I can assure you I will not support moving it to the Prosperity Building, that parking and the interaction with the other offices. After that had been brought to my attention, I agree 100%. That is just a bad idea. I think that we need to fix the building that we have immediately and then start working on what the plan is over the next 5 years. Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to any kind of discussion about reducing the size of the library,
Yes,
do we want to be a community that encourages growth and education? Or do we want to be a part of the community that supports dumbing down our children by not encouraging reading and all the activities that the library provides? Do we want to be a part of the solution or a part of the problem?
I agree. We need to put together a plan. I don't have the exact formula for putting that plan, but I think that there needs to be people that are committed to the library and committed to a vision of the future to help us put together a plan. And I'll work to put that together.
don't you think the librarian ought to be leading that charge?
I do, absolutely. That's one thing I want to say. We have a great librarian, folks. She does a heck of a job. Those of you that have been here long enough to know what the library was like before and after is significant. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I wanted to point out that we have Friends of Cooke County Library, and we do a lot to support the library. We buy furniture for them, rugs for them, things for the children. We support programs. I mean, the whole weight of the library is not just on Clay County. So, I mean, it is a community-supported entity.
I agree. As I said before, I think we need to get the Economic Development Committee, the Gainesville City. It needs to be a cooperative to figure out how we fund it and how we make it better.
Well, I hope you'll include
Yes,
a member
ma'am.
of the library.
I will. I'm going to need input from citizens to understand how we best go forward.
You got another hand back here, man?
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Your Honor, first of all, I appreciate your comment of your commitment in the next 60 days to work on this issue.
Yes.
It was brought to my attention, I'm the president of LULAC, which is the League of African American Citizens, the largest organization in the country. I've been here in Gainesville about 4 years now. I'm an arm of LULAC. I have my own council, but I have the support from the country. And I was looking at it as civil rights issues, how it pertains to the minority, and how not providing books that have helped minorities throughout the years, okay? So I will look at decisions when they come to me as civil rights matters, because we're ready to take on issues that are not fair to the community in the minority area.
Thank you.
And we'll be willing to work, because I work as a mediator. I'm more trying to resolve problems and create problems. I was the director of EOC for years, so I try to resolve problems before they get out of hand.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Anything else? My office is open. My cell phone is also public knowledge. Please feel free to call me if you have additional questions, or you want to volunteer, or if you have additional input. We definitely need to put together, in my mind, let's fix our library, and then what are the steps 1 year, 2 year, 5 years down the road to make it what we want it to be. Any other comments? Yes, sir.
Judge, I just want to thank you and the court for allowing this group to, the biggest problem we had was having a discussion and knowing what was going on. I think we've all learned on both sides of how important the library is. We did not know that it was going to be more square footage for to move to the bank. But there's a lot of things to consider. And we appreciate your time, and I know each of you have gotten a lot of calls on that, and you have gone above. I've never seen the Commissioners Court have an open forum during session before. That is very unusual, but it's very good, because it's very difficult to set up a time to address the court, because that has to be done a day or two before and get on the agenda. But I think we've gotten a lot of good conversation, and everything is out in the open now. And I think everyone here is going to leave happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I got one last comment. That wasn't the discussion. It's not going to be twice as big over there, and that floor won't hold the weight that's of that library. I want to make sure everybody understands that.
We hadn't investigated it that far yet.
Oh, Icon sat here and told you that you couldn't put 7-foot tall bookshelves, they could only be 5. They went through all of that the other day. But, you know, everybody kind of cries about how society's going to bad, in a bad way, degradation of society, and we got to sit here and discuss whether libraries are, how big they should be. I don't know. We've got our priorities messed up, I think. But anyway, thank y'all for coming. I really do
Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much, and thank you for all of your input. Item 14, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding Main Street parking lot. Shelley's not here to discuss that. Have we went public for bids yet, you know?
How many days? How many days did we give them for bids? Was it?
We gave them nearly a month, didn't we?
I think it was 30 days, at
Posted.
least 30 days.
Okay, it has been posted? I believe it has, but I'm not sure, guys, to be honest with you.
I saw an ad in the paper, I think, last week.
All right, thank you.
For the
Okay, we'll take no action on item 14. Item 15, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding the Crest Building. I have no update on the Crest Building. There were a couple who viewed the Crest Building last week, but no further input. Does anybody else have anything on Crest Building?
The first one's turned it down?
Yes, sir.
What happens if we can't sell the Crest Building? Then we're going to end up buying another building, we'll have two buildings?
That was definitely what I voiced in the beginning. There's a lot of activity. I think it'll sell. We definitely won't lose money on it.
If there's nothing else on Crest, we'll take no action. Item 16, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding county radio communication system.
We're still having a little bit of an issue with our fiber optic connection between Cooke County and Denton. Had a request the last couple of days to take one of the radios that was initially thought would go into the hospital and put it at Station 1 for the captains. Court had discussed whether or not, I've gotten new information from the new director that we might not necessarily need a 700 radio at the hospital, so that would allow us to utilize one of the two for that. So, other than that, does the court have any reservation about taking one of those radios from the hospitals and putting it EMS Station 1?
Fine with me. Makes sense.
Adam? You're the old EMS guy.
See, that's the kind of conversations we have that's hidden.
That's not like buying buildings,
But,
building
you know,
buildings.
we need to take care of business, and will there be a vote on that? Do we need to require a vote?
Don't try to compare swapping a radio from one place to another in a system that's been approved to
I mean,
completely
it's just,
changing a
you know.
platform, please.
Well,
Go ahead and do
anything
it.
else on radios, do we?
Anything else on radio communications?
When is it going to be ready to go?
I'd be lying to you if I gave you a date, Leon, so I don't do that.
Okay.
Okay, no action on radio communications. Item 17, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding annex. Anybody have any input on the annex? I know they were putting on a new roof last week. Yeah, that's something that we've been trying to do for over a year. We
Approved in the budget.
Yeah, I was
Talked
thinking,
about,
something new with the
and it's just
construction.
now getting it done. They held off on doing the roof until we got everything done before we were going to have to penetrate the roof.
That was part of the hailstorm.
Yes, yes, sir. Okay, we'll take no action on the annex. Item 18, deliberate and consider any possible actions regarding Prosperity. I have no update on Prosperity. Take no action. Deliberate and consider possible actions regarding proposed weight station. I have nothing there either. Adam? Okay, no action on item 19. Item 20, deliberate and consider possible actions regarding various grant funds. You have any update, Sharon? We'll take no action on grant funds. Item 21, adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Have a motion by Commissioner Snuggs to adjourn.
Can we go back to the weigh station? Sure. What is the timetable on it at all? Does anybody know?
I don't think that there is a timetable, but that's a good question.
Depending on the road, the highway they're redoing, when they were gonna have us after that, or when they got to a certain point, but we haven't heard anything.
Are we ever going to have a set of plans in here? Y'all envision doing that next year, bringing the plans in and approving all of that so you can get bids? Or how's that going to work?
Yeah.
Because I've never seen a set of plans. Everybody says there's plans, but I haven't seen those.
I mean, get with the state.
Do they have them?
Yeah, DPS does.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
No, no worry. Item 21, adjourn. I have a motion from Commissioner Snuggs to adjourn.
Second.
Second from Commissioner R. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.